you check the children?
Hi, I'm Chucky. Wanna play?
Sometimes that is better.
You're gonna need a bigger boat.
What's up, everyone? Welcome to the Horror Show. I'm Cecil Laird.
And you got Jaime and Fuego here.
And we are here to basically cap off our full Saw coverage, which began a few years ago before Jigsaw came out, but most recently we added to it with our review of Spiral. But we on this channel have never done a full ranking of the Saw series, and so we want to go ahead and do the ranking like we normally do, which is the tier list ranking.
Yay!
I'm not sure which side my hand should be pointing on right now. But nonetheless, we're going to do a tier list ranking of all 9 current Saw movies and spin-offs. If you want to call Spiral a spin-off, fine, but it is Saw 9, straight up.
Yep.
So just like Jigsaw is Saw 8. So we are here to discuss the Saw movies, and here's the interesting thing. I've watched all these movies as they have come out, and then we did a full review of them all like 3 to 5 years ago when the last movie came out. I did it with someone that I don't like to talk about very much on the channel.
We don't even need to mention.
Nope.
But, yep, the reviews are there.
The reviews are there for all 8 previous movies, and we never did a ranking, and so now the 9th movie has come out, and Fuego decided to put himself through what some might consider torture, but what I consider a fun trek through a solid horror series.
Yeah, seriously, I had only watched the first 2 entries in this series. So, first one I don't think I saw in theaters, but there was so much buzz about it, I had to get to it, and I enjoyed it when I first saw it, but second film disturbed me significantly, most notably the scene where Homegirl is thrown in there with the needles, and it just made me want to barf. And even upon rewatch, because I watched that one at least once more, it still gets me every time. The rest of the movie is a little bit tamer than I remember, to be fair, but with this new film, The Spiral, coming out, I was like, okay, I feel like I need to finally put myself through it, even though I didn't like the second film enough to stay with this series, and I know how much of a phenomenon it became over the years, and owning every Halloween, and then Paranormal Activity took the baton and ran with it for a number of Octobers as well. But over the course of 2 days, I watched every Saw film, like even back to 1. I started with 1 and I went through all of them, through the final chapter and into Jigsaw leading up, and so they're all very fresh in my mind, and dare I say, I actually think I really enjoy this series.
When you watch them that way, it really makes them better
because they all fit together. They're all
fit
one
together.
long narrative.
There's tie-ins from part 6 to things that happen in part 4 or 3 rather.
Yeah, some
that
people
never get revealed.
Yeah, some people don't like the fact that they are so heavily reliant upon flashbacks. I honestly really like it, personally. I feel like it fills in those gaps and creates this like myriad spider web of intertwinement and stuff, and I don't know, I thought it was pretty dope personally. So
let's get into it, Fuego. Let's start with the very first Saw movie, shall we? That was directed by James Wan.
Yes.
That started everything off, starring Carrie Yules,
Danny Glover,
and Lee Wan-el. And
before he became this big directing phenomenon with The Invisible Man, and now granted, Lee had done
before
stuff before
Insidious
that.
As well.
Yeah.
But this is the one that started it all. Now, this does definitely hold up as a great old school horror movie. Now, knowing the rest of the franchise,
that does put it in some different context.
I don't think you can put it at the tip top. However,
I don't think there's a better entry in this series, though.
Oh, I do.
Do you really?
I do.
Wow, that's a shocker. You know, when I revisited it the other night, I was like, since I hadn't watched it in many years, I would say that this is legitimately a horror classic at this particular point. Now, it does take a lot of cues from 7, as became much more evident upon this particular rewatch, but I think the scenario, I feel like despite a $4 million budget, the production value that they were able to get from this, I would argue S, but now I'm very curious about which one you would put above the original.
That's fine. And it's not. We're not going to have to wait that long to discuss it. So, to me, this was between. I think 2.
You think 2 is better?
I do think 2 is better.
Wow.
Okay. So I personally, I would have put this at an A or an S. If you're feeling S,
I
then
contend
I'm
S
happy. I'm happy to put it in S.
100%.
Okay.
I think it's an S.
So we'll go ahead and put it in S. We'll start things off with that one there.
And obviously, if you do not agree with some of our placement, please give your own rankings and thoughts in the comments below, guys.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that is the first entry. Now we get to so Saw set a precedent with. It was kind of a torture porn. It's a whodunit.
It's also a mystery, which you don't really get in a lot of the later entries.
Not only that, but the end is always a twist of some kind, not unlike the Shyamalan sort of scenario. Game over. But the second movie, I personally feel like the second movie took what the first movie was working with and really bumped everything up. I liked the fact that that it dived further into Jigsaw himself's story.
That I appreciate, because in the first movie, Jigsaw is in like one scene.
I liked the Amanda part of the story. I really liked so in the first movie it was the cops trying to figure out what was going on with the killer. In this one, this was where they blended Saw and Cube, where you had a group of people having to work together to try and escape a particular situation.
That's where it was definitely elevated in that regard, larger scale.
Indeed, and you had characters that were only in it for themselves, and if only they had just been willing to work together and stuff like that. Like,
I just didn't like a lot of the characters in this second movie, which was one of my issues, aside from Dina Meyer getting more to do. Like the lead, the father of the kid. I just really do not like his character at all, and he's supposed to be,
the father of the kid was in the third one.
No, the second one is where his son is the one that connected all of the people in that house, because he had arrested all of them and falsified charges.
Sorry, I thought you were talking about the guy that was looking for his kid that was in the safe. We're talking about a later entry. Sorry, my bad.
Yeah. His character in this second film, man, I just really did not particularly care for him. The rest of the law enforcement, who we get more from...
it's Donnie Wahlberg, right? This is where we get introduced to Donnie Wahlberg, isn't it?
I think it is Donnie Wahlberg, yeah. Well,
or am I wrong?
I'm not sure that... Okay.
These movies, they all blend together so much.
Because there's so many of them, yeah. But in this particular entry, like, there is the boy who, he gets in trouble with the law right at the beginning of the film, and the father is like the grizzled divorced cop.
Yeah, this is Donnie Wahlberg.
Okay, yeah. I just wasn't 100%.
Yeah.
But and Dina Meyer, I think, was his partner at one particular point, and so his interplay with Tobin Bell is. It's good, but he comes off as such an asshole to me, and I know he's supposed to, but even many of the characters that are inside of the home, I don't like a lot of them very much. Girl from Seventh Heaven, who was just the one who was like catatonic practically the entire time. Although I'm very glad that we get the actress who plays Amanda, that she gets so much more to do in this. It's as we find out with the twist, at the very end, it is very much her film in that regard, which I really appreciate. So,
you have the needle pit.
Which is what where that big bulky Mexican dude just throws her in there, dude. Like, that is, it's for me, there's grosser kills as far as from a gore standpoint in this series, but nothing has made me squirm more, probably because I hate getting shots and I don't have any tattoos or any of that stuff. Like, needles make me squirm for whatever reason, and that is still for me the grossest trap, and it's not even, well, I guess it was devised, but it's still for me the most cringeworthy sequence in the entire saga of Saw. This was more like an A or a B for me.
B? No way.
B plus.
Get out of town. Again, I'm on the S camp for this one.
Wow. You see, it's the later entries where the lore was really getting developed. Some people think it was convoluted. Yes, it was. When by the time you get to like 4 and 5, it was a little convoluted. Maybe lost some of its focus with the over explanation of things. But I would be fine giving this an A, but I think it is inferior to the first film, personally.
I disagree. I feel like they elevated. So we're going to be at a bit of an impasse here. I guess I'll concede and go with A for now, but I
But when
personally
Saw
think
X comes out, we may have to reevaluate.
we may have to, yeah, because
I don't like this as much as the first film, dude. I
really
really
liked
don't.
it.
I
I
really
really liked
don't.
it.
Having just watched it, I didn't.
I know it's
I
been a
didn't
while.
find
So
this
that's the
much
thing.
merit
It's been a
within it.
while since I've watched them, but
Yeah.
I did just watch recaps of every single one. But
Mm-hmm.
all right, let's get into 3, Fuego. So, Saw 3 again, basically concluding the Amanda trilogy.
Exactly. Yeah.
And this is where we find out that Jigsaw is dying, and there's a
Well, we knew in the second one he was.
true, but this is
where they're trying
to
special
save him.
treatment.
Yeah,
Yeah.
special treatment with a doctor that they've kidnapped, and there's a man looking for his kid, right? If I'm not mistaken, and Jigsaw even tells him he's in a safe place, and so that's right. That's this one, isn't it?
This is the one where so you got the aspect
Check
right
again.
about the doctor who was kidnapped and everything.
Right.
But then there's this guy who is being put through a series of traps and
Yeah, he's
it's the
isn't he?
it's
Is
the-
he not looking for his son? Am I confusing that with Donnie Wahlberg still?
No, he's not looking for his son. Like, his wife is the one that's been kidnapped.
Oh, his wife. Okay,
Yeah,
that's
his
right.
wife is the one that's been kidnapped, but their marriage...
That's right, and
their
his wife
marriage
is-
was on the
it ends up
fridge.
being
His
the doctor,
marriage
that's
is
right.
the doctor, which is
That's
what we
right.
find out.
Yep,
But yeah,
sorry.
he's going through that... Like, the only entry in the Saw series to have nudity, and not just nudity, but full frontal nudity. Like, when that woman is being... She's strapped up,
Oh, yeah.
and she's being frozen,
Yeah.
and he like has the opportunity to save. So he has all of this rage because his kid was killed.
That's what it is.
Yeah, and so he's been sitting like he's been neglecting his marriage. He's been kind of rude to his daughter. He's going around just getting drunk and like playing around with guns and how he wants to go and kill this person who was supposed to do life in prison and then got out after 5 years on a technicality. And so it's like the moral quandary for his character of, okay, will you, when you are faced with these people, like, the judge, the witness that wouldn't testify, like all of these different things. I found his story, even though his character is a little reprehensible to a degree, it's still, like, you can understand why he's so depressed and acting so insane, and just all of these different things where will he try to save these people who wronged him so much. Like, I was really fascinated with the moral paradigm that his character is put through. And then the B story is obviously how Amanda is not quite, like, they do a very odd thing with this series and trying to make
This is the one with
Jigsaw's
the unwinnable
character-
traps, right?
or
Or was 2 the one with the unwinnable traps?
3 is the unwinnable traps, but those were Amanda's device.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Where she is just ruthless and wants to inflict harm, and Tobin Bell's Jigsaw...
The whole movie is a test for Amanda, basically.
Yeah, as you find out in the end, to kind of spoil. And it's a... This is probably more of a B, but this was another very strong entry. It had some of the most grisly...
You think B2 on this one?
This might be a
The first trilogy is, I think, S and A tier. Because they all fit together so well. The
this
writing
one-
is so good.
This is one where they really go
Amanda gets
into
fleshed
Amanda's
out.
backstory significantly.
Jigsaw is fleshed out even more, and you see that he really is on the side of his code.
Yeah.
He's not like loyal to Amanda specifically.
Yeah.
He's
But
just
that's where it's very weird, murky waters of this like virtuous morals, because of the fact that he still puts people who I don't necessarily think are deserving of death in positions to die. And so that's where I feel
people
like
that failed him.
I feel like Jigsaw's moral code is a little off, because he is still...
That's right, because this is the one with the black guy that gets all of his limbs turned around, right? And he's the one that actually killed the son, if I'm
At the
not
very,
mistaken.
very end, yes. Yeah, exactly. But then, you find out in a later entry that it was homeboy Pouty Lips who was messing with
Yeah.
the calibration that actually made it have the outcome that it did. So, I could give this an A. I think think it's
A-worthy.
in the standing of the franchise, okay? So not
That's what we're
compared
doing.
with other films. Within the context of the franchise itself, I would give this an A.
Yeah.
I don't think it's necessarily better than 2, but I actually think I like this one better than 2, personally.
I think they're at least on the same level. Personally,
Yeah.
I like 2 a little bit better, but
Yeah, if I'm gonna give
neither
2
is worse than the other.
Yeah, if I'm going to give 2 an A, there is no way I can't give the third one at least a better grade. And the uncut version of this adds, which is streaming on HBO Max, and I know it's available on a home release, it adds like 12 or 14 more minutes. So since I haven't watched both versions, I'm not sure. This was a first-time viewing of the third film for me. So,
all right, so let's move on to Saw 4. Now,
this is the
one that's more about the cops sort of investigating the situation, right?
Yeah.
There's the black cop, and then we get introduced to Detective Pouty Lips, a.k.a. Hoffman.
Mm-hmm. And also the FBI. So the national sort of law enforcement, it's not just a local sort of situation anymore. You have feds that become involved as well, as the two of those characters are introduced, the black woman and the guy who plays a big part in, I want to say, the fifth film, if I recall correctly.
Yeah, the other detective guy.
The other fed.
Basically.
Yeah, so this one is really about because Jigsaw is dead, obviously.
Yep.
And it's about how
they start with an autopsy, pulling parts out of Jigsaw at the very beginning.
This is the first one that really, really starts to play with time significantly, in the fact that you're watching it and the end of the movie is at the beginning.
No, the end of the movie, you realize that it took place concurrently with Part 3.
Well, that too.
It took place at the exact same time as Part 3 was taking place.
Yeah, but as far as timeline goes, the autopsy is technically at the end.
Right, the autopsy takes place after the rest of the movie.
Yeah, so it starts with the end timeline-wise, but you get it at the very beginning. And so this is where some may argue it gets a little convoluted, but I would dare say, like, ambitious in the structuring of the storytelling.
You think so?
I personally do, man. And granted, I wasn't as about the black cop who, just gets manipulated into becoming like a henchman. I was less about that sort of aspect, but I did feel like they tried to do... This is the last one that Darren Bousman directed.
Yeah.
So it kind of completes his trilogy. But it's still, it started right at, the very end of the previous film. One of the best things that this series does is, despite the time jumping, each film starts, like, right at the end of events in the previous film.
This one starts with the autopsy of Jigsaw, and then it goes back and tells the story leading up to the end of 3.
But you don't realize that until the very end.
Right.
So it does, it's the first Saw film where there was, like, a significant bait and switch of where you think it's something happening afterwards, and yet, as you mentioned, happening concurrent.
But it's still really good writing, though.
It's really, yeah, and that's where I said that it was an ambitious attempt. This was probably, whereas like 5 and 6 got a little bit more linear in what they were trying to do, I think Saw 4 might be the most ambitious from a structuring standpoint.
And it also wraps up the Donnie Wahlberg story, finally, after, this is the third movie that he's technically appeared in.
Yep.
And he is,
And there's also a big reveal as to, the guy from 3 who was introduced, Pouty Lips, as you mentioned.
Detective Pouty Lips,
Yep, exactly. And how he is just another, I guess, kind of apprentice, so to speak.
I don't... Did we find that out in this one, or we find that out in 5?
No, we find that out in this one. You find that out in this one because 5 is where the Fed guy is after him.
Yeah, and he ends in the glass box, right?
Yeah,
yep. 5 ends in the glass box. Okay.
Yeah. So this one,
I would put it at B.
It's definitely a B because of the fact that they're... You kind of struggle to find, like, a really likable character in this one, I think, and that's one of... Despite the ambition of the structuring and the storytelling and stuff like that, and it's also one of the few entries in the entire series where you don't have a big group like cube kind of thing going on, because you get that in 5. You also get it to a degree in 6 with the insurance guy and all of these other traps.
You get it to a degree in Jigsaw too.
The peoples you do. So yeah, this is one where it's smaller on a scale in some ways, but yet I appreciate how they tried to do something drastically different because of the fact that they had already written, like, they killed their main villain, where do you go with a series when you've killed your main villain? So props for creativity and for just really trying something drastically different, even if they didn't always succeed. So I'm fine with this at a B, but it's a very solid B for me.
So moving on to Saw 5. Now, is this the insurance one?
So that is Saw 6.
Okay, so Saw 5. Which one is Saw 5?
Saw 5 is the one where you have the, well, it's the furthering story. It's more expansion of stuff with his
Detective Pouty Lips and the 2 FBI agents,
and also his former wife, and exploring some of that backstory.
Oh yeah, we start to meet more about Jill.
But in this one, like, the big thing is that you have this group of people who were all involved with this property that was burned down.
That's right.
And the rich kid was the one who burned it down, and then you've got one of the real estate people, and then you have some insurance people. You have the journalist who was covering the situation, the British guy.
Withheld the story.
Yeah, exactly. So that was what tied all of these people together. This was very much taking a lot of two and rehashing it, in my opinion. It was the only one that was done by a guy who was like a second unit director, I think, on a few of the previous entries, and so he was a behind the scenes guy. It's probably, from a production standpoint, the weakest of the entire series for me, despite the fact that I think they upped the budget to 10 million from the 4 or 5 from the previous ones. But I think this is the weakest in the series, aside from the most recent one that came out. But I still have a soft spot for it because it does advance the narrative significantly.
I still think
it's got a great finale.
Hard to put below a C, man. Would you put it at a D?
No, I wouldn't put it
That's
at a
what
D.
I'm saying. I think it's. Would you put it at a B though? I think C is right.
I don't think I would put it at a B. But this is a strong C+ in my estimation, because I think the finale is great in this one, where he puts Homie in the glass case, and then it just goes backwards, and then he gets totally smushed. The FBI guy at the very end, who has been tracking him and trying to find the connection, and just trying to get that sort of confirmation. This one, it's got some really really gruesome stuff, especially where without spoiling too much, I love the fact that Jigsaw's ambition in this was to get people to go against their human nature and work together, and how that was where, if even the end bit where they're having to give their blood, the 10
they would have to give so much less if they had just worked together.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's the running theme of teamwork and actually trust and so on and so forth, as opposed to but this was the first entry where the people find themselves within the situation, and they're all aware. It's like, it was one of the first very meta entries in the series where they're like, oh shit, we're in Jigsaw, blah, blah, blah. What are we going to do? And they're like, no, if we don't... The self-awareness, it was the first entry in the series where it was very apparent, based on the victims, because of the publicity that, John had found, and also where there are people who are starting to, disbelieve whether he actually died or not, which is a theme that we focus on in the 6th and the 7th movie, the final chapter.
So let's get to number 6. Now, number 6, I feel like jumps back up in quality.
I think so, significantly. And it's the first one to really have significant social commentary about just dastardly insurance companies and people being rejected for coverage, whether pre-existing conditions or whatever. And it's got some of the most gruesome setups, in my estimation, too, whether the weird merry-go-round sort of situation with all of his workers.
The shotgun merry-go-round, the steam maze.
And also what happens to him at the very end with the injection of the acid. That shit is gross, man. But it also... Which
is brought back 2 movies later, that same acid, too.
But, and just the scumminess of this lead guy, and further exploration, the way that they found just opportunities to get Tobin Bell back into the story through the aspect of flashback, and with him, confronting this guy, and also the further exploration of how he had, and they did it, and they started it a few films before, but the fact that he was a pretty virtuous person when he was married to his wife, and
until he got in a car accident.
Well, it was the death of his child, where she got pushed. And I think I think this is the film. It's either this one or the previous one. God damn, I can't remember. Where you find out that it was actually Amanda who was seeing that guy named Cecil, who was the one who pushed her when he was trying to rob their clinic.
And kill by miscarriage.
And that's how their child died, and that's what set him on this path of torture. And so this one had it. It's so funny how 4 got so convoluted with so many different puzzle pieces, so to speak, and then 5 streamlined it a little bit more. But 6 was where I feel like they, for better or for worse, the conviction of the Jigsaw, John's character. This was where I started to actually kind of buy into it a little bit more, and some nasty bits too. So this is one that I would. This might be an A for me, but I would be fine with a B. But I think it's a lot better than 4, which is where I'm just kind of conflicted in that
Yeah,
regard.
I do agree it's better than 4.
I just don't know if I would put it up there with the original trilogy.
That's hard.
I would be fine doing it, though.
I'm okay putting it in an A.
Yeah.
I am. Again, on the level with the rest of the franchise, I do think 6 was up there as one of the better ones.
Yeah.
So let's move on to Saw 7, aka Saw 3D.
Probably
Now,
the goofiest of all the Saw movies.
Yeah, I
And
don't
deliberately so.
feel the best about this one. Although it does have
Did you see it
the
in
coolest
3D?
bit of I did. And it did have the coolest bit of carnage candy of them all.
And that's, dude, the scene with Chester Bennington, that is one of the most elaborate, crazy kills. Like, that was borderline Final Destination shit.
It was.
In that
but they put
particular-
it too early is the problem.
I
And
think
then
so,
nothing
too.
kind
I
of
think
lived
so,
up
too.
to it for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, although I love the angle that they approach with the Sean Patrick Flannery character in this, where, it's become commonplace that people have been kidnapped by Jigsaw in the past, and some of them are like, I'm actually a better person from what, like, his weird,
there's
maniacal,
a survival group, like an AA
Mm-hmm.
for Jigsaw victims, including people from, like 4 people are from past movies,
Oh, I
which
was
is
going to
awesome.
say, the girl from 5, the black girl who sawed her arm off,
The
she
old
shows
lady
up there.
from 6 that he saves that's his assistant,
Yeah.
she's in it as well.
Yeah, so it's a very interesting angle in somebody fabricating that they had actually been there and then, making all this money off of it. And there is that funny scene where Tobin Bell actually shows up to get the book signed from him, and he...
With the backwards hat,
Yeah,
though.
and somebody joked on Twitter, they were like, hey, remember that scene where, Jigsaw was dressed up like a member of Blink-182? And I thought that was so funny, man. So I do enjoy the fact that it was like, hey, if you're going to lie about this, you were going to get your just desserts, and we are going to turn it around on you. And it was like, this is where the logic is a little askew, because the stuff that happens with his wife, she had no idea, and for her to suffer and perish in such a shitty fashion, because all of the
Shitty
other
fashion,
all of the other
yes.
people though knew what he had done.
It's a shitty
His
fashion,
buddy,
except for the
his
fact that
publicist,
they
all of those-
finally paid off the reverse bear trap from 8 movies ago.
Oh,
You know,
yeah,
the very
yeah,
first movie.
Yeah, with his wife. Yeah.
But
Pouty Lips finally, getting to, and
then
love,
we got- I love
the
that-
slice on the cheek and like him sewing
That was in the
himself
previous
up
one.
and everything.
That was in the previous one.
It was, but at the beginning of this,
yeah, he sews it up.
himself
But what
up.
I actually liked that Dr. Gordon came back
Yeah.
as one of the, the people running
another one of the
apprentices or whatever. But I still like that he came back.
I thought so too, and they leave, and that's where a lot of people speculate. Will Saw X, which is in development at this particular
Will it
point,
pick up these threads, or will it pick
go
up the
back to Chris
Jigsaw
Rock?
threads, or will it go
Yeah.
back to Chris Rock? Because there's 3 different threads they can pick up. I think this is a B.
I'm fine with the B for this one.
When you
actually.
compare it to the rest.
Yeah, it's significantly better than 5. It's not that much better. It was just that, like, I appreciated more so than anything what they did with Sean Patrick Flannery's character, and also bringing back Carrie. I thought was really good. But it is in tone, like, I feel like the cops in this are some of the worst in the entire series. Like the goofy main guy who is going after Pouty Lips, and he's like, yeah, he saved me on the job once, and I'm like, I don't know, I felt like that character specifically was like in on a joke that I don't necessarily think anybody else was, and so but yeah, this is a solid B. I felt like anytime you have the final chapter, now granted it was released as Saw 3D and then they rebranded it as Saw the Final Chapter. Anytime, whether it's, Friday the 13th or whatever series, anytime you have the heading, the final chapter, it's never the final chapter. Come on.
All right, so let's move on to Saw 8, a.k.a. Jigsaw, which was the first time they tried to reboot / reinvigorate the franchise, and they veered away from the...
from a stylistic
John,
standpoint.
Well, they veered away from the John and Detective Hoffman and Carrie Ewell's character. They went away from all of that and did a whole new apprentice that was supposedly going on from even before everyone else.
Yeah.
They had to really stretch their writing muscles in order to make this one work with the rest of the franchise.
And it doesn't really make sense until like really late in the third act, to be fair, where they spoon feed you the exposition and everything.
I do like the what was the beginning of this one? Which one was the beginning of this one? What was this kill.
Well, it wasn't
Was
even
Jigsaw the two friends?
It actually wasn't even a big.
No, the two friends with the girlfriend was Seth.
Yeah. It actually wasn't even a big kill. It was the standoff with that kid and all the cops and stuff, and he ends up getting shot, and he's like 4 people are gonna die, or
that's right.
whatever.
He starts the new trap.
Yeah.
That's right. Ugh. Yeah,
I don't like this movie.
I don't like this one very much either.
Yeah, I didn't like it. I didn't like it until the reveal at the very end. To be fair.
No, I mean, is it a C or a D though?
I might go D. Honestly,
Yeah,
as far
Jigsaw was
as
really rough.
Yeah, I did not honestly like it until the very end when we got the reveal as to the fact that he had come
and even
back,
then it felt so crowbarred
and
so crowbarred.
It did, and also it's another one that is playing with time in the fact that yep, you think
that's right, because you think something's happening and then it turns out it's a whole different.
And then the coroner guy has actually been recreating everything, and so the scenes with
that
Tobin
happened
Bell,
from like 10 years ago or something like that.
Yeah, because you think, as I was watching it, I'm like, are they retconning this shit? Are they really doing it? Is he not actually dead because they exhumed the grave,
right?
And they find that one kid in there and all this stuff, and yet they, in very Saw-like fashion, explained that no, what we had been watching was the first instance, and then the coroner guy was in fact recreating, when the whole time you think the sick, haughty little redhead is the one who is doing it, or the cop. So there is a lot of, man, compared to the lack of mystery when they're trying to be a mystery in Spiral, this one at least achieved, surprising me a little bit. I did not think it was going to be who it actually was. It was a possibility, but it was nowhere near as telegraphed as what we got in Spiral,
All right, let's go ahead and move on to the final that we have in the franchise as of now, as of our recording of this. We are recording this 1 week after Spiral has come out. So if there is
honestly,
a Saw
couple
X,
days
we may,
after, but you guys are seeing it a week
after. We may
review,
or we may just add it on to the tier list at that point if it does come out in the next couple of years. But
you know what we could do eventually is when new entries to these start coming, we could do like a tier reestablishing with like a bunch of different tiers. We're like,
just
okay,
tier list add-ons.
Yeah, exactly.
They'd be little short 10-15 minute videos and it'd work great. Yeah. All right, so Spiral Fuego. We just did a whole review on this. If you want all of our thoughts, feel free to go check out that review. But this one, I think, it again has nothing to do with the Detective Hoffman, the Carrie Yule's character. It's people that are inspired by what John Kramer did, and it's super telegraphed who the person is. There's only about 3 traps that we get in the whole movie, and they're not that creative. I honestly
think this is the worst in the series.
I think this is another D. I don't think it's an F.
No, I wouldn't go F because of the fact
I think it's another D.
Because I really liked the opening kill, the wax kill, and
the wax kill was okay.
It was okay. The more we think about it, I don't know, man. It is definitely a D. I think Jigsaw is a better movie than this one, though. To be fair,
I think they're both equally meh. I really do. I think they're both equally meh, trying to reestablish a formula that's already well established.
I will most definitely say that I think this is the worst ending in the entire franchise.
Okay, that's
hands
fair.
down the worst ending.
That's fair.
It just didn't have that cathartic exclamation point. Like even Jigsaw, the ending of Jigsaw with that the coroner being revealed and getting his with the laser stuff on the cop and everything, like, and then just slamming the door, which granted Spiral has the door slam and everything, but it just didn't have that like just punch to the face like so many other endings to this franchise did. The last 2 are obviously the weakest. When they've tried to pivot, when they've tried to do these spin-offs, sadly they have not found a formula to, despite touting them as being so different, I don't think they succeeded in either. So,
no, I don't think so either.
Yeah.
So that's going to do it, guys. So if you have watched the Saw franchise, why don't you let us know, where do you disagree, where do you agree? Let us know all of your thoughts in the comments down below. If you enjoyed the video, click the like button and subscribe to make sure you don't miss other episode and tier list rankings like this going forward.
Yes.
Thank you to all of our patrons for supporting the channel. The link to that is in the description box down below if you want to tell us movies to review, do commentaries for, anything along those lines.
Boogie Box.
Thank you guys so much for watching. Until next time, I've been Cecil Laird.
And gracias a Jaime in Fuego.
And remember, stay scared.